Every year, new stars emerge in the UFC, those who, in the eyes of the fans, are set to replace the current stars and bring a fresh breath to the organization. But is the hype surrounding these fighters always justified? And what should we expect from the new superstar Paddy Pimblett? Another Johnny Walker or Darren Till, or perhaps a savior for the UFC? Folks, today's video will be dedicated to Paddy Pimblett. We will talk about him in full, learn everything about the bold Englishman who is already being called the second Conor McGregor. But why such comparisons? Who has he fought? And what should we expect? Don't forget to like and comment. Paddy Pimblett was born on the 3rd of March, 1995 in Liverpool, and to this day, he presents himself as a true Liverpudlian. He even enters the octagon not with the flag of England, the country he represents, but with the flag of Liverpool. Pimblett is so passionate and patriotic about his city that he calls himself not an Englishman, but a Scouser. Scousers is an informal, yet widely used nickname for people from Liverpool. The guy fully identifies with his city and admits that his dream is no longer to win a championship belt, but to bring the UFC to Anfield, Liverpool. A similar dream was held by Conor McGregor, who wanted to headline a tournament in Dublin, and he did so when he fought in the main event against Diego Brandao. I always say this, when the fans come back, I'll fill Anfield. We'll pack the stadium to 100%. The last time I was there was at a lost match against Atletico. Put the octagon in the center, add some space around it, and we'll fly right in. Pimblett commented on his dream. So, what do you think is Paddy's favorite football club? You have 3 seconds to answer. And yes, of course, you guessed it, it's Liverpool. And how coincidental that Conor McGregor's favorite club, Manchester United, is a direct rival to Liverpool in English football. By the way, Pimblett even once stood out and took a jab at Conor when he was at his peak in 2015 to 2016. At one of Liverpool's matches, he asked his friends to display a flag with the words, "McGregor, you're going to get killed, mate." In general, we've understood that Paddy is quite a devoted Liverpool fan. And right now, we're talking about the entire city, not just the football club. But we're here to discuss him as a fighter, and why there's so much hype around him. Paddy's journey began quite typically, as, like many other fighters, he was inspired to start MMA by watching the old school. At UFC 103, Vitor Belfort, who fought Rich Franklin, unknowingly became the reason for such a strong passion for martial arts and our star today. Paddy was so inspired by Vitor's performance that he immediately went for a run the very next morning at 5 o'clock and, a week later, signed up at the nearest gym, starting to train there 4 times a week. This is what we call obsession, and Pimblett was totally immersed in MMA. Just 2 years later, the young man from Merseyside made his professional debut on the 16th of October, 2012. At the age of 17, Paddy is facing another Englishman, Nathan Thompson, with a record of 4 wins in 32 seconds. The legend, Nathan, attempted to engage from the first second, but the debutant, Paddy, immediately overpowered his opponent with a spectacular takedown, taking top position. Pimblett didn't spend much time with Thompson, and within 1.5 minutes, he finished his opponent via TKO, with the referee stepping in to stop the fight. Now, I'm not trying to imply anything, but if your record is 4 wins in 33 seconds, perhaps MMA isn't for you, and maybe a career change would be a good idea. Unfortunately, there's no footage of Pimblett's second professional payday online, which is a shame because he won that one with a flying triangle. But there's a video of one of his amateur paydays where he won with another impressive submission. Well, look at him now though. Nevertheless, the Scouser, just like Damian Maia, put the backpack on his opponent and, after a short time, forced him to tap out. A solid performance, considering his rather cheerful demeanor at the beginning of the fight. After another victory, this time by knockout, and holding a record of 3 wins and 0 losses, Pimblett was signed by the top English promotion, Cage Warriors, where Conor McGregor had previously fought. Paddy is a fundamental grappler, so once again, utilizing his wrestling and control skills, Pimblett secured a dominant victory via unanimous decision. Unfortunately, Paddy remained unbeaten for not too long, as on the 5th of October, 2013, in his 5th professional payday, he was choked out by an anaconda. I truly believe that this loss was mostly due to Pimblett's inexperience. He was only 18 years old when he got caught in the anaconda, and he didn't try to move or resist, thinking he could just endure it, but ended up tapping, showing at least the will to not give up. In his next fight 6 months later, Paddy performed much better, and even judging by his shape, it had improved. The Brit had gained some muscle and grew his hair out. Pimblett once again showcased his grappling skills and secured a win by decision. His next match, on the 3rd of May, 2014, ended prematurely. Conrad Hayes attempted a takedown on Paddy, but the Englishman, not without reason a great grappler, swept him and went for the takedown himself, which turned out successful. However, he couldn't maintain control for long, as Conrad managed to escape. But when he started going for another takedown, Pimblett performed an insane move, something that could only be compared to the wildness of Tony Ferguson. Paddy launched into a flying triangle, and while Hayes was, to put it mildly, shocked by what was happening, the Scouser threw elbows and eventually forced his opponent to tap out. Even though Pimblett initially showed himself as a regular grappler in the early stages of his career, moves like this flying triangle made him stand out from the crowd. His fight against Brady on the 1st of November, 2014, was more exciting than all of Ben Askren's fights in Bellator and ONE FC combined, as it had everything you could ask for. Stephen Martin dropped the future star with a knockdown in the first few seconds, but Paddy, like a true snake, started to coil and wouldn't let his opponent find the finish. Just moments later, Pimblett switched to Usman style and worked in the clinch against Stephen. In fact, everything seemed to be going in Martin's favor during the fight. He defended against takedowns, worked in the clinch, and if a takedown did happen, he didn't allow Pimblett to control it. Then, right at the very end of the round, with just a second to spare, Paddy landed a brutal elbow, slicing Stephen's face open. The blood flowed so heavily that the doctor couldn't let him continue to the next round, and Paddy was declared the winner. On the 20th of June, 2015, Paddy Pimblett fought for the first title of his career, but not in Cage Warriors, rather in the FCC promotion. His opponent was the Frenchman Kevin Petcher. Pimblett spent the entire fight attacking with dangerous submissions. His skills on the ground are truly impressive. He is quite the talent. Although Kevin caused Paddy quite a few problems during their fight, the Englishman still went for another takedown, which proved successful. He quickly took his opponent's back and, subsequently, forced the Frenchman to tap out. Pimblett won the FCC title and displayed his extraordinary grappling skills. In June, Paddy defended his title for the first time, where he once again absorbed numerous strikes to the face but managed to connect his jiu-jitsu and forced his opponent to tap out to a chokehold. Well, if he doesn't fix his striking, he's going to be a real snack for solid strikers. However, when Paddy returned to Cage Warriors, he set out to prove that he wasn't just a regular grappler. After securing 2 wins in the organization, Pimblett stepped up for a title fight for the vacant lightweight belt, which was once held by Conor McGregor 3 years prior. And do you know what's interesting? Conor, a boxer by trade, defeated his opponent and claimed the belt via chokehold. As for Paddy, being a grappler by base, he landed a flying knee, followed by a left hook that dropped Johnny Fresh, and then finished him off. What a strike and what a finish! At 21 years old, Pimblett became the lightweight champion. They all called me just a grappler, but what happened? My left hook happened, baby, said Paddy after his victory. In his next fight, Pimblett defended his title against future UFC fighter Julian Erosa, winning by decision after 5 rounds. At such a young age, Paddy was offered a contract by the world's top MMA organization, the UFC. Typically, when an organization makes an offer, it's rare for a second one to follow. But Paddy turned down the UFC contract and later explained his reasoning. I'm glad I didn't take the first offer when I was 21. Maybe I would have gotten beaten up. I was still a kid back then. I had a scrawny body, no muscles. I looked like I had just graduated high school. If 26-year-old me fought 21-year-old me, I'd beat him in 2 minutes. However, right after the offer, Paddy faced a setback in his title defense. Nad Narimani proved to be a tough challenge, being able to secure takedowns and throw strikes at the Englishman, ultimately winning by decision. Special attention should be paid to Paddy's jaw, considering the madness of him enduring so many strikes at just 22 years old. After a tough loss, Pimblett stepped away from the sport for almost a year, returning only in February 2018. After losing the lightweight title, he decided to move up to the lightweight division, where he was set to face Alexis Savadis. The first part of this fight resembled more of a grappling tournament than an MMA bout. The fighters exchanged submissions, and it seemed like someone was bound to break their limb in these exchanges. But to the disappointment of the doctors, the fight moved to the second round. Savadis went for another takedown, but Paddy once again showed his insane trick, a jumping triangle, locking it in completely and forcing his opponent to tap. Okay, pulling off such madness once is one thing, but doing it twice is pure mastery. Paddy successfully debuted in the new weight class, and perhaps due to his popularity, Pimblett, having only one win in the lightweight division, immediately got a title shot, just like Conor McGregor once did. He aimed to become a champion in 2 different weight classes. I think featherweight is a bit easier than lightweight, so I'm going to do what McGregor did, win the belt in the featherweight division, and then demand a title fight in the lightweight. But in Cage Warriors, he failed to claim his second title. Although he was quite close to finishing it in the first round, Soren Bach displayed true Viking endurance and didn't give up, eventually making enough moves to have his hand raised after 5 rounds. The record stood at 1 win and 2 losses in his last 3 fights, but Pimblett wasn't ready to give up. The real madness here is that before the title fight, Paddy received another offer from the UFC, which he also declined. The guy must have lost his mind, or maybe he understood that he was truly meant for the strongest league in the world. When the UFC offered me a contract in 2016, I was still fighting in the lightweight division. I was very immature. I wasn't even a professional. I was still a kid who spent all his time hanging out. When they offered me again in 2018, I turned them down for the second time because I wasn't competing in the lightweight division. I was still a boy fighting against men. I didn't even have a proper, strong team. After another loss in a title fight, Pimblett returned a year and a half later and easily defeated his opponent by technical knockout in the first round. After attempting to choke him for a while, Paddy decided not to waste any more energy and finished the fight with punches. His next fight came a year later, but once again, Pimblett was plagued by numerous injuries, and the global pandemic also kept him from competing in 2020. So it wasn't until March 2021 that Paddy made his final push for a debut in the strongest league in the world. Pimblett rocked his opponent with a high kick, and sensing blood, he began to finish him off, delivering a brilliant trip takedown, moving to his opponent's back, and forcing him to tap. Then, he made a statement towards UFC President Dana White. "Dana White, I'm tired of waiting. Here I am. Call me." And the offer followed. Already in April, Pimblett was signed to the world's strongest league, with his debut scheduled for September that same year. Paddy is called the second McGregor, not because of his style or wild finishes, but due to his flair and ability to create a show. He certainly knows how to grab attention. Right after he was signed to the UFC, he had a conflict with Khamzat Chimaev's friend, Guram Kutateladze, where Guram's nationality, specifically being Georgian, was also touched upon. But since Kutateladze was already scheduled for a fight, Pimblett was matched with Brazilian Luiz Vendramini. At the same time, Paddy stated his desire to make history, just like McGregor did in his time. "Conor changed the game, and I'm going to do the same." Pimblett also questioned the greatness of former lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov. "Listen, John Jones is the greatest, no matter what. He beat real killers. GSP and Silva are also true beasts. They're in the list of the greats too. But Khabib, he only beat 3 decent fighters. I don't understand how people consider him the greatest. I just don't get it." Paddy, of course, had plenty to say before the fight during press conference interviews. He also mentioned that he didn't consider his next opponent a serious threat, claiming that if the fight stayed standing, he would knock him out, and if it went to the ground, he would submit him. Well, Paddy managed to confirm his hype, at least in his first fight, knocking out his opponent in the very first round, though not before briefly entering groggy mode. Pimblett rocked his opponent with a high kick, and sensing blood, he began to finish him off, delivering a brilliant trip takedown, moving to his opponent's back, and forcing him to tap. Then, he made a statement towards UFC President Dana White. "Dana White, I'm tired of waiting. Here I am. Call me." And the offer followed. Already in April, Pimblett was signed to the world's strongest league, with his debut scheduled for September that same year. Paddy is called the second McGregor, not because of his style or wild finishes, but due to his flair and ability to create a show. He certainly knows how to grab attention. Right after he was signed to the UFC, he had a conflict with Khamzat Chimaev's friend, Guram Kutateladze, where Guram's nationality, specifically being Georgian, was also touched upon. But since Kutateladze was already scheduled for a fight, Pimblett was matched with Brazilian Luiz Vendramini. At the same time, Paddy stated his desire to make history, just like McGregor did in his time. Conor changed the game, and I'm going to do the same. Pimblett also questioned the greatness of former lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov. Listen, Jon Jones is the greatest, no matter what. He beat real killers. GSP and Silva are also true beasts. They're in the list of the greats too. But Khabib, he only beat 3 decent fighters. I don't understand how people consider him the greatest. I just don't get it. Paddy, of course, had plenty to say before the fight during press conference interviews. He also mentioned that he didn't consider his next opponent a serious threat, claiming that if the fight stayed standing, he would knock him out, and if it went to the ground, he would submit him. Well, Paddy managed to confirm his hype, at least in his first fight, knocking out his opponent in the very first round, though not before briefly entering groggy mode. Come on, I wasn't even close to being knocked out. I'm a Scouser. You can't knock us out. We're made of different stuff. Nevertheless, Pimblett made a successful debut in the UFC and set his sights on the very top of the division. Well, let's address the main questions that have arisen about Paddy's persona. Is Pimblett an exciting fighter? The constant intrigue in his bouts and the flying triangles suggest that, at the very least, he's far from boring. And the main question, will he become the second Conor McGregor? Paddy has significantly increased his follower count. If Pimblett continues to win, he will reach a level of popularity akin to Adesanya, Jones, and Diaz. But there will never be another Conor McGregor. I don't see a fighter who will even come close to matching the popularity of Conor or Khabib. Those two guys are in a different stratosphere. And that's all there is to it. What are your thoughts on Paddy Pimblett, folks? Is there too much hype surrounding him, or has he truly earned it?